We have Catherine Owens on with us, and I met her at the Idaho Book Extravaganza. I think I told people I went up there a few weeks ago, and she's written a book, Be Your Own Hero: Senior Living Decisions Simplified. And she's also a recent winner, and we're actually going to the ceremony tonight, right, Catherine?
That
Um,
is correct, Jill.
her book and my book were both the top 10 Idaho books for nonfiction. And she won also Best Interior Design, second place for nonfiction, and Best Cover Design for
Wow.
nonfiction. So I will see Catherine tonight. But Catherine, why?
Well, first, I just want to say I feel privileged to be with a couple of celebrities.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you, Kelly.
As well he should, right, Catherine?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I can tell how this is going to go.
So, Catherine, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wrote this book. How is it going to help people?
Well, Jill, I have had the privilege of working with seniors and their families for the past 10 years in helping them navigate this difficult decision on looking into senior living options and how to go about it. What I find is that a lot of people wait until there's an emergency or a crisis to look into senior living services. And so they're overwhelmed, they're stressed, they don't know where to start, they don't know what to ask. So I've seen a need for something that is available, that's a quick and easy resource for people to help them to really understand the services available, what they can provide, and how to go about making these decisions so that they really make the best decision for themselves.
And they should do it when they're not in a crisis, right? So when should you start looking into senior living options? Like when your parents are still doing well?
Well, definitely look into the services and educate yourself on what is available before the emergency or the crisis.
Yeah.
That really does allow you the time to be proactive, to be an advocate for yourself, to understand what's available and what is going to not only meet your potential needs, but meet your wants and desires and the lifestyle that you have in mind.
What should and actually, I guess I'm kind of getting the idea here, and wrongfully so, that it's just always up to the kids to decide where their parents should go. But especially if the parents are still of sound mind, I mean, this should be a communicable thing, right? I mean, talk to them and see what might be their best interest, what ideas they might have.
Definitely, Kelly. And, unfortunately, because people wait until the need arises or a crisis, more often than not, the responsibility is put on the adult child, but it's a difficult thing for the adult child because they don't want to take away the dignity of being able to make choices and decisions for oneself, yet they're faced with having to make some important decisions. And so being proactive and discussing it as a family on what potential needs might be coming up, what desires are, what concerns that people have, and there's a lot of emotions involved in this decision. So understanding how each person feels about this decision, what each person is concerned about, what each person hopes to gain from this decision, really makes for a good partnership in making this decision together as a family.
And don't you think more people right now, like the baby boomers, they're dealing with this right now? I mean, our parents, Kelly's parents actually are still alive at what, 96 and 97 or
Yeah,
something?
they're in their 90s. And,
Oh, wonderful.
I know.
Living in Boise, as a matter of fact.
Well, if they ever need someone to talk to, Kelly, I'm available.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is sort of kind of facing a lot of baby boomers at this point, and I think they're all sort of dealing with this now. Some people are trying to take care of it, just by having their parents stay with them. But what kind of options should these people be looking at? Because it can be so hard on the caregiver, can it?
It's incredibly hard on the caregiver, and a lot of times the baby boomer generation, they call it the sandwich generation because they're not only trying to address needs and concerns and care for their parents and manage their own day-to-day lives, but they're also still have maybe kids that they're raising or providing for or taking care of. So it can create a lot of stress. And the biggest thing that creates the stress is not talking about it. It's one of those topics that nobody wants to discuss until they have to.
Yep.
And this is said to be really one of the hardest decisions people will ever make. So it's in everybody's best interest to just have an open conversation and start planning for it, whether you ever need it or not.
You know, that's a good suggestion because I have seen several instances where the kids, even though the parent, one or both, were still of sound mind and maybe were getting to the point where looking into something like this was in their best interest, but they just kind of came in one day and said, okay, here's what you're going to do. We got the moving van out front. You're moving into such and such. And that's not the way to approach it either.
No, it's not. And one of the biggest fears seniors have in making this type of move is that they're going to lose independence and they're going to lose control of day-to-day decisions. And so by being proactive and making these decisions while you're of sound mind and while you're healthy puts that back in the parents' control.
Right.
Because they're able to say, this is what I want. This is what we want when the time comes. So the kids know they don't feel guilt for having to make difficult decisions that may go against their parents' wishes.
Exactly. What is the best way to start? Because it seems so overwhelming to me. And frankly, I'm kind of lucky because my dad was a planner and he planned all this stuff out and planned ahead, and we really didn't have to do much. But I know that when the time does come and when the adult children might have to start looking for a place for their parents, and it's so overwhelming because it's just like anything else. Everybody's out there. They've got their sales pitches. They've got this and that. Where do you start to get the right information?
Well, Be Your Own Hero is a good place to start.
All
That's
right.
her book, yes, because you address all of these
Yes.
problems.
Really, Kelly, the important thing to consider is that most people assume all senior living communities provide the same thing. And yes, most senior living communities provide the same basic services, but understanding how each community provides those services and at what level they provide the services really is going to help someone narrow down their choices and help them make the best decision possible. So it's not only what you ask, but it's how you ask the question. And so for an example, you could call every place in town and ask if they provide 3 meals a day, and every place would say yes. So instead of asking, do you provide this service, ask a community how they provide the service. For example, instead of do you provide 3 meals a day, how many options do you provide with each meal? Who's preparing the meal? Do you cater to individual wants and needs? So it's not necessarily what you ask, it's more how you ask the question.
Because there might be food allergies and such that have to be dealt with, and you need to know how they will handle that.
Exactly. And the number one fear is that people are going to lose independence. So if a community is providing choice, they're providing choice of independence. And the goal of a community should be to assist people to stay as independent as possible. Those are the things that are going to help people still feel like they're in control of day-to-day decisions.
Yeah.
Catherine, what are some of the mistakes people make when researching senior living? I know you talked about meals, like maybe they're like, oh, that's not that important, but it can be. But what are some other things that people maybe forget to do or should do?
Well, I'd say the biggest mistake is just making the decision based on cost. Cost is the number one thing people ask about, and cost is an important factor for most people in this decision, but it should not be the only factor. And that's where allowing yourself time to educate yourself on the differences between communities is going to help you see what community is best going to fit your needs. So taking the time to tour a community several times to see what you get for what you can afford. So just don't base it on cost alone.
Right.
Because you do get what you pay for.
And you do need to ask the questions about Medicare and Medicaid and stuff, right?
Yes, and that's another topic that's confusing for people because they don't know what pays for it or how it's paid for. They don't know how to plan for it financially. A lot of people just want to assume that they're never going to need it. And the reality is 3 out of 4 people will end up needing some form of long-term care in their lifetime. So it is something that needs to be planned for. Medicare does not pay for senior living services. They will pay for outpatient services such as home health. But assisted living, independent living, memory care communities, those are all private pay because it's considered your room and board.
Right. Right.
And some of those will let you keep pets, some don't. And that's kind of important as well. If you have, pets that are so important to someone's life. I know mine are like my children. To put them in a place that maybe doesn't have it, that's a factor as well, don't you think?
Definitely. And those are all things that if you're sitting down as a family and discussing what's important to you in your day-to-day quality of life, those are the types of things that you want to be listing out so that when you're educating yourself on the communities, you can ask those questions. If you're in a state of emergency or crisis, you may not stop to think about what their pet policy is because you're just trying to address the emergency.
Right.
So if someone read your book, would they be able to come up with a list of important questions, or maybe you even have a pre-planned list of questions that might get them started in your book?
Exactly, Kelly. And what I did with my book, you can go online and print out questions on what to ask, but they're all the same questions that don't help people really differentiate one community from another. So what I did in my book is I broke down every service and amenity that's included in a community, as well as all of the different levels of communities and services, and listed out what they can provide, what they cannot provide, what their limitations are, and then how to ask the questions to understand how they're really going to meet your needs.
Where can they get your book, Catherine?
And how much is it?
Yeah.
Well, my book is available on Amazon.com, and it's averages about $15 a book. Amazon adjusts their prices periodically, but right now it's about $15.
Can they get it through your website as well?
They can, and that's CatherineLOwens.com.
And Catherine with a C, Catherine.
Or they could probably do a Google search for Be Your Own Hero.
Yes, they can. It's easiest just to go to Amazon.com, though.
All right.
Be Your Own Hero. So, Catherine Owens, I will see you tonight.
Wonderful, Jill. I'm excited. And Kelly, it was nice to meet you.
Thank you. Same here, and good luck to you. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, this is Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX, and we'll be right back.